The gospel collides with all idolatry. The gospel collides with all idolatry. And remember, idols come in many forms, whether external shrines, or internal obsessions. So, broadly speaking, you have external shrines and you have internal obsessions, but remember that these things often feed one another. Internal obsessions tend to ultimately be expressed in an external shrine to something, and then that takes on a sort of momentum, that external shrine, and that tends to encourage internal obsessions. And then we just they chase each other like dogs and cats. But idols can also be sneaky. Idols can also be sneaky, and even warnings about idolatry can sometimes be driven by other idols. Warnings of idolatry can be driven by other idols, and so they can be weaponized and misused to steer unthinking Christians. So, for example, what do I mean? Well, is it idolatry to love your work? Is it idolatry to love your family? Is it idolatry to love your church? Is it idolatry to love your nation? Is it idolatry to love your ethnicity? Well, the answer is no, so long as love is defined biblically. No. In fact, those are good loves. You're actually required to love those things. You're required to love them biblically. Your love is to be obedient to God. So idolatry fundamentally is disobedient love. Idolatry fundamentally is disobedient love. You're loving something, it's certainly possible to love something that is just evil. You're not to love it because it's evil. It's also possible to have a disordered love. You love one thing in a wrong way. It's a good thing. It's to be loved in a certain way. It's to be loved in an obedient way, but you're loving it in the wrong way. You're loving it in a disobedient way. So, for example, over recent decades, the Christian family has been systematically mocked and degraded. And this is not a secret. This is not us speculating at all. A whole bunch of people that hate God and hate His Word and hate Christian culture like openly met together decades ago and said, let's destroy the Christian family. The Christian family is the building block of Christian civilization. We hate Christian civilization. Let's destroy that. We explicitly said that. And so a whole bunch of faithful Christians saw that happening, saw those attacks being levied on Christian families, and a whole bunch of them said, we should really focus on the family. Ha ha ha. Right? But really, no, they did. And that's where that came from. Okay? That James Dobson and other guys were saying, look what they're doing. We need to double down on Christian family. Husbands, wives, children, family. We've got to do it. And God bless them. God bless them. But the really crazy thing is, in the midst of this, as many Christians said, we've got to get back to building these strong Christian families, there have been a whole bunch of other Christians, or so-called Christians, coming alongside saying, now be careful about how much you emphasize family. You might be making an idol of your family. You might be making an idol of your family. And it's just, well, is it possible to make an idol of your family? Yes, of course it is. Yes. But it's sort of the wrong memo for the moment, right? It's not a whole lot different than the folks that show up when Nehemiah and Ezra are starting to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, and you've got these naysayers coming along saying, well, look at how much emphasis they put in bricks. Always talking about bricks. Always talking about mortar and all the time and mixing in. Well, that's because the walls got broken down. We're talking about that, and people say, well, you just talk about, husbands loving their wives all the time and wives submitting to their husbands in marriage and family, and there he goes again, right? Some of us aren't married. Well, listen. Even if God has called you to singleness, you want to live in a world where there are healthy Christian families. Right? That's a good part of the world that God has made. You say, well, There's going to be another sermon series on child rearing, I know, any day now, and we don't have kids, or we only have one, or whatever. Listen to me. You want to live in a world where families are strong. Yes, does God give different gifts to different people? Yes, maybe he's not giving that gift to you now. Maybe he's not going to give that gift to you. We'll get to that in a minute. But you still want to live in a world where there are strong, healthy, thriving Christian families, because Christian families are the bedrock of Christian civilization. It's that world that will protect you. It's that world that will bless you, okay? Can you idolize these? Yes, you can idolize these things. Yes, like you can idolize anything. But these things frequently get confused and weaponized.